let's make these trees also solid objects. So I will go to the behaviors, and let's call these objects, by the way, let's call these trees. I will go to behaviors and plus, and let's just make them solid so that the player can't go through them too easily. And let's take a look at the collision polygons as well, because they are probably quite strange, as we can see. I will also make these a more simple box shape, and maybe I will bring this in a little bit like 170, 170, this one was 50, and we can bring this down slightly, 20, 20, this one can be 295 and 295. Alright, so that's a better collision shape, I guess. And now the player can't go through this so easily. Maybe it's now time to add some enemies into our game. So I have a sprite for those. So I double click, add a sprite, and open up this sprite sheet. And here's the little enemy guy. Let's select him and crop 2 times. Let's also put the image point somewhere here in the center. And we want to name this sprite enemy, and he's in the foreground layer, which is good. And basically we want to add these enemies into various places in this game. I'm just copying them, and then we want to have them move around and make the game a little bit more difficult for the player. Let me just fast forward a little bit here so that you don't get bored. Alright, so now we have quite a few enemies in the game, and of course they are not moving or anything at the moment because they are just sprite graphics. So, you know, if I would test this game, then we will quickly see that the enemies are just laying around there, they are not doing anything. Let's fix that first. So I'm going to go back to construct, and I have my enemy object selected. I will go to the behaviors here, and I will give this enemy the platform behavior. Let's go platform. This way it will respect the solid objects, and it will also be able to move around more easily. So now that I have given it the platform behavior, so what happens is that we can't really see the enemies now that they have the platform behavior. And that's because actually I can see another problem here, and I really don't want to make it possible to fall between the trees. That's kind of annoying. So let's make sure that actually the tree collision polygons are a bit wider. So maybe the X can be 20, 190, 20, 190. So now it should not be really possible to fall between these trees. So now if I play this, the enemies have disappeared, and that's because we gave them the platform controls, and when they have the platform controls, then we are basically controlling them. So while I'm moving my character here we can see an enemy. He's moving in a similar fashion to my character because I'm controlling him, and that's not what I want. So what I will do is I will select my enemy, and I will go here into the platform behavior settings, and I want to turn the default controls to no. And when they are no, then the enemies are not by default moved by my keyboard. So now they stay in place again. But now we want to have them move kind of on their own. So what we can do is we can go and create another event. So I will go here into the event sheet, and now that we are creating more events, it's also maybe good to stay a bit organized. So let's create some groups which let us organize our event sheet in a nicer fashion. So I will right click and I will say add group, and I will call this group simply enemies, and we will add events that are related to the enemies inside this group. So there's a couple of ways, by the way, of adding events. You can click on this add event button here, or you can press E to add an event. And actually I want the condition to be something that is happening all the time for now. So I will go to my system, and here's an event called every tick. And tick is basically like the smallest unit of time in the game. So it's basically like saying do this all the time while the game is progressing. Do this constantly. So I will select this from the system category, this every tick, and then I will say done, which means this will happen now all the time. And the action that I want to happen is I want the enemy to do something with this platform control, and what I want to do is I want it to simulate control. So I want the enemies to move like somebody is playing the left arrow on the keyboard. So I will press done. So now the enemies should be moving left all the time unless they are stuck. And we can see that when I created this event by pressing E, it did not go inside this enemies group. I can put it inside this group by dragging it like this. So I will kind of drag it under the group, and now it's part of this enemies group, and I can, if I close the group, then I won't see this one here. And one other feature that I want to show that is useful, especially when you're starting out, is commenting. So a keyboard shortcut for creating a comment is Q. You can of course also right click and choose add comment, but I like to just press Q, and now I can type in just like a description of what this event is doing. So I will just tell it that move the enemies left. This is something that is quite handy. Let's also create a group for everything that is happening in the beginning. So I will create a new group, and I will call this start of layout. And let's make this to be the very first thing here, and I will make this like a sub-event of this start of layout. So now it's looking quite neat. We have two groups, and they both have some things going on inside of them. And let's see what happens now if we preview the game. So now we can see that the enemy is running left until it gets stuck. And we have quite a few of these enemies attacking us. But we can also see that the enemies are not hurting us, of course, yet in any way, because we haven't created that logic yet, and we can also walk right past them. So maybe the next thing should be that we create a health system so that the enemies can actually hurt us.